Yo guys, what's going on? Hazy here. Welcome back to another video today on the channel. It's about a week and a half ago now. Yes, I've been very slack. We had the OCE Nats, and I managed to come 14th with my very favourite Cooler Mill. Now, it was a bit unfortunate that it was only top 8 playing off for day 2. And I like to think that I was about one card in deck away. So my last game I lost was to 8th place. And they had one card left in deck. So that's just how it rolls. It was a great day. Shout out to TAC for an awesome event. We went 5-3 with Cooler. A little bit disappointing in reality, considering I was 5-1 after 6 rounds. So I was calling for it to stop there, but with Swiss Plus Plus, we got to play an extra 2 games, which is really, really cool. So that was enjoyment. The more games you play in the day, the better. There's no two ways about it. So there is a deck profile of Cooler Mill on the channel. I'll link it in below. I'd come 8th place recently at the last regional. So this deck profile is going to be a bit more of a quick little breakdown of what was in the deck rather than what everything does. We'll probably get a brief little explanation of it. But if you do want to know a bit more in depth about the deck, check the link in the comments or just comment and I can even do a how to play, something like that, if you guys would like to see something like that with Cooler Mill. A lot of people do say this is a very pilot heavy deck, so I like to think that I've done very well piloting this. So getting into the deck, to start us off on our turn 1 plays, because that's what we got now. We've got 3 17s, top 5 search for a multi, which is really, really good because that is pretty much the majority of our decks. Our super combo, our rival pieces, all the main parts. And then we've got the pan, which is a good just little cantrip, and it's very handy because you can just give it to your opponent and neg it if they don't combo it off or get rid of it before you get a chance to neg it. Pan didn't come up really at all. I think I might have played it once or twice. I never gave it to my opponent to neg. So I really think that 4 copies of 17 is probably the way to go, and then maybe cut Pan altogether or find a bit more room to keep her in there because she can team really well to close out the game if you need it. So now we've got the bread and butter, our check lands, our free multi-combo that also doubles down as a blocker, dual attacker, and top 5 search for a Freezer's Clan. This thing really is insane. This thing, if I had to go out and say that I don't think I really had a proper MVP. I think my deck just performed overall. But this guy just pops up at critical moments. Just being able to deploy a blocker. And when you're a Z Awakened, it turns into a draw 3, so a +2 in hand. Because it searches for a Freezer's Clan, which can be a check land, it can be another one of itself for a combo, or it can be this guy to a rival to neg more stuff. So it is this thing is the biggest utility in the deck, and there's no reason that I would see this being run at any less ratios. This one, however, I'm really on the fence about. I had cut it, and then I brung it back because the ability to bounce to bounce any of these back to hand is really, really powerful because this then doubles down. You could play it again, do the same thing, another top 5 search. If you're Z Awakened, you get a draw 2 as well, a blocker, or it can just be a multi-combo. This to a rival, essentially, mill them 3, or for a check land. The problem is that when you play, I try to only use this if I know it's if it's my opponent's last swing of the turn. Because with the amount of removal in the game now, it's so easy to blow these guys up because there's no protection for them. So Hercule Boo just loses a lot of value if it actually has nothing to bounce. It can still be really, really valuable, which is why it's still in here, because it draws just for playing, regardless of whether there's anything to neg. Whereas all these guys neg barrier, this doesn't, which does start to become a problem. I a lot of the times I've always had trouble if it's a barrier situation. These guys can only do so much, and then this guy sort of lets it down by not ignoring barrier. I mean, this thing would probably be too busted if it ignored barrier, just saying. But the 2 of these can become a really, really, really powerful combo that we'll get to later on. So that's the Arrival engine. And again, like I said, I'm really not sure on Hercule Boo. I used it as my flex spot. I was usually siding at least 1 copy out per game. 1 card, I actually did side a Senzu Bean out every now and then. But Senzu Bean with Beerus and another combo essentially gives us 13 cards that will untap a energy. Unfortunately, you need energy open for Bean, but 13 untaps in a red deck is just absolutely absurd. So there's no two ways that for me, obviously 4 super combos and 4 Bean is the way to go. And it does give you the opportunity, if you do think you might not need the Bean, you can just side the Bean out. Next up, this guy, and I actually use this guy for to play. He's really good, just like 1 energy. If you've got a Freezer's Clan card in your energy, which you normally will because you'll be charging turn 1 in active mode or multi. So you'll have that live. So you can play him turn 2 or turn 2 onwards. When he's played, you can add a card from your life to your hand, which is really, really good if you're being stalled out at like 5 life or even 6 life to turn a token negate on. I did have a mirror match against the Cooler Mill, and I was trying to get myself down to that Awaken range. So I think I actually used 2 of these in the one game. And then it does next something 5k. So even if like you're really dead on things to do when you're awakened, you can just like, this just becomes a cantrip. You just pay 1, play it, next something 5, and you get a draw from it. So it replaces itself, which is really good. And then it's like, its greatest feature is when it attacks or when you combo with it from your hand, you can combo with a multi. And to team up with our untapping, we got the Vardos. I definitely think that 3 Vardos, I would side 1 Vardos out every now and then, but I definitely think 4 is just the wrong number of Vardos. I still am on the fence whether 3 is, but I think it's better to have this Vardos and not need it, because a couple of times I did just pay 2 to combo with it because you get 1 energy back for untapping. So it's a 1 for 10k basically, if you do need that. But teaming it with the Freezer is just really, really strong. And actually, a few times Freezer, I think once or twice, Freezer was actually a good target to bounce back from Hercule Boo. So another card that is actually good for Hercule Boo. Next up, we got essentially our boss monster, but this is just our negging beast. So we need to think of another name for him. So this guy, you're never really playing him to attack with him. You do swing with him just to finally close out the game. The problem is he has no protection whatsoever. So into like yellow, he's so easy to like get eaten by the Sin promo, or just if you are playing to swing with game, you have to be very careful because things like Steadfast Assistant are running around at the moment, or Zamasu in Gogeta. So you can just rest it on play so it doesn't get its swing. It does still get the auto, which basically makes them mill 2 for every time you neg a battle card, which is really strong because when you play it off the leader skill, you can... I had a game, I think my opponent had like 13 cards left in deck. So we paid the 5 for the 2. We played the Freezer, played the Cooler. The Cooler will normally mill 3 for 2 battle cards. With this, it makes it 7. And then because he had 2 battle cards, we just swung with this and negged him his last 6 cards. So I did actually get to close out a game that way. It was pretty satisfying. But yeah, I think there was actually one game where I sided one of these out and I was like desperately digging for it, forgetting that I'd sided it out. So I definitely think 2 copies is the way to go for this, because if you only have 1 and you wake up in your opening hand and you sort of don't have like a cantrip to play out or something, you kind of have to charge this early game. Otherwise it gets stuck in your hand unless you've got a Freezer and you know you're going to be able to fix your hand quickly. But it feels bad to only have 1 of these and have to charge it or combo it away because it gets stuck in your hand. Because, like I said, it can end the game on the spot. Next up, and this card, I think for me, is another really good card that for so long I underrated it because I found it hard to generate Z energy in this deck. Now that I've got like a turn 1 play, I'm always charging Z energy. And with like, because I'm not... when I used to test, I used to play with the Universe 7 card, the We Are Universe 7, to get the super combo back. So Z charging the super combos wasn't always the best option if it got stuck in your Z energy, because you couldn't go and fish it out of your Z energy. But now with things like the Vardos, I just don't have room for that. So I'm finding myself charging a lot more Z energy out, which makes this guy live. And I really actually want to consider going up to 3 and cutting this to 2. This is becoming very situational because when you're playing people are starting to learn how to play against Cooler Mill and not building boards. If they do get a bit out of control with a board, you can just play one of these and neg the board. But if they're not playing big boards or lots of barrier threats, this isn't that great. So I would definitely consider cutting this to 2 and going up to 3 with this, because this can just being able to counterplay this is like so critical, because like a lot of the time, if your opponent plays out a card, say it plays out 2 cards, you can play one of these, hit a card, and And that's one card less they've lost a combo, because normally if you play out like 2 cards, you'll combo 1 off to avoid running into this or any other neg. So being able to play this, and even like a real dirty thing you could do was obviously U7's running around now. For two energy, you could essentially pay 2 energy in both counter windows when they play the big 6 drop and just neg it 40k if they don't have a response to it. So I definitely feel like 3 is a better number for this now that I'm finding more and more ways to generate Z energy. Cellmax had been cut down. I think I was running 3 in my last build, but gone down to 2 because I'm just finding it coming up less and less. When it gets off, it is really, really strong. It makes your opponent have to respect it. But with things like yellow at the moment has a lot of ways to rest this and make it, you can't interact with it. If it's rested, they just won't kill it because it'll obviously neg something 30k. So this was just literally my flex spot. It was only one game that I used it when I was actually trying to go for the kill because I was really scared of turning the tide and I couldn't find my Jiren. That's the only time this guy saw play. Otherwise, he just kept getting sided out. Next up, 2 Draw Monkey. I did try testing this with no Draw Monkeys, and it just did not feel great. This is just... So that way, like, if at any point you've gone into a turn, you've got nothing you can really play out, your opponent's got no board to neg, and you don't want to go into the next turn with all your energy up because you want to, like, get the full value out of your Vardos or your super combo. So, like, being able to tap 2, warp these, and draw 2 cards is still really good. And there was, like, my first game of the day, I think I saw this turn 2 and turn 3, and I was just able to gas my hand right up, and I just saw everything I needed. So these are still very good in the deck. 2 testings. I think I only used these once or twice. I think one game I actually decided to copy out. I don't know. I still think like hard negates are needed. Hard free negates in this deck are still needed. I don't find myself getting stalled out, so going from 5 to 4 isn't really a problem. But going down to 4 to 3 is really, really like you don't really want to do it unless you absolutely have to. So these kind of are seeing. I feel like at the moment, for me, token negates are becoming less and less a thing. Now, one of the MVPs of the day, Explosive Dance. In this deck, this feels amazing. Like, it does like stall your opponent out and just less swings, and they're not milling cards like with an Oceania, but it does keep you alive. I can confirm this card does keep you alive longer, which in the long run is good. But I didn't play against anyone that fully knew how to play around Explosive Dance, which to me was good. But this card in this deck is nuts. And then, talking of Oceanus, here she is. I did actually go down to 2 of her when Explosive Dance was coming in, but when they ruled that that the Victory Strike can be countered by battle card attacks, I thought, well, let's just leave the 3rd copy in there. And I'm very happy that I leave it at 3. There was never a point where I was like, oh no, I've run out of Oceanus, or oh no, I could have used her, but when she comes up clutch for me. And lastly, our STR of choice is Bursting Rage. Last time we ran Pan, and I was like, after testing early in the week before Nats, I nearly went back to Pan, but I stuck to the guns that I'd been testing with, and I went with Bursting Rage. Even like had half a thought of going back to Pan when they changed the Floodgate ruling, but it's just a 20k, and it can allow some really cool combos in your deck. So pretty much for only 1 energy, because we'll untap 1 with our super combo. Probably the most energy efficient way to do this is with 2 Hercule Boos. So you rival, you get your untap, you pay 1 energy. So essentially that's free because of your untap. And then you'll rival this on your Awakened side. You draw 1, mill 1, draw 1 from your leader. Cool. Then you go Bursting Rage, draw another card, go to your Z leader, pay 1 more energy, go into another Hercule Boo. Draw another card, neg something. This time, you will draw 2 from your leader, from your Z leader, which in turn will draw you 3 from this, 2 from this, 1 from this. Which, insane. It just fills your hand straight back up. There's a few other combos you can do. Like, you could do it with the Chilled, but unfortunately, Chill costs an extra energy. So the most energy efficient way, and that is literally you only need to have 1 energy open for this play to go up. With Chilled, you would need 2. So to draw 6 cards So you're essentially going +3 for 1 actual energy because of your untap. You can also neg 20,000. So if someone's like basically going for game, you could probably neg 2 things 10, gash your hand up. You've got a 20k come for this. You're probably not dying. I can guarantee I did not die when I used this. I think I only really got to resolve it once, to be honest. But the one time I did, I definitely didn't die, which is what you want from your SCR. And then it left, like, obviously because the Z leader doesn't leave until your turn. I went into my activate main of my Z leader next turn and closed the game out. So that was really good. So that is the deck. Let's go into the Z deck. So because we are running Bursting Rage, we do run 2 Z leaders because obviously you lose a Z leader, and you don't always Z Awaken in this deck, but it would feel real bad to have lost a Z leader and gone, shit, I could really use the activate main to tap 5 to pretty much win the game, or just to like draw more cards kind of thing. So that's why we ran 2. Definitely didn't want to get caught with like a feels bad of only having 1 Z leader. Next up, we actually had 2 of these. Shout out to Zach from Locals. He loaned me the second one because I only own 1. And this guy, this is really, really good, this card. In this deck is even better because of its activate battle to pay 1 and ditch 3 of your Z energy, because it does neg something 25k for the turn, which is like really, really good because it can like, not only could it like stop a big attack, because it would basically be a 40k plus 40k because you're negging your opponent's battle card 25 and then you're gaining a 15k. It also draws you a card as well. And yeah, it synergizes with the deck because it will essentially make your opponent mill. This guy, the Omnidirectional Beam. I actually wish I ran 2 of this guy. So if you don't know what it does, when it's played, it negs the field 25k, which is really strong. I got this off in one of my games, and then I think like 2 turns later, I was looking at the board again because the board had gotten big, and I think I was just playing some floodgates because I didn't really have any minus in my hand at the time, and I was really looking at my hand and my Z deck, and I was like, I could have used another one of those. Like, I ended up winning the game, but I actually think a second one of these isn't the worst thing in the world, considering we don't really go to the Z deck for battle cards. Speaking of one, is Rush Attack Vegeta. This is only here because it does synergize with the deck. It can be 2, like if you have enough Z energy, it can be 2 swings and 2 minuses. But I definitely think for another one of the beams, I think that this would probably go. I actually played this once, again when I was scared of losing to Turning the Tide, and unfortunately I didn't have the Z energy to give it barrier straight away, and just got eaten by the Gohan rare, which it is what it is. It's not my own fault. And Beerus. So Beerus is just like our straight up removal, just for things that we don't want to see. So the 4-drop from Goku, because you might have noticed by now, and we haven't been through my side deck yet, but I overlooked the Vegeta counterplay that hits the 20Ks. So I had an answer to the 4-drop, but I didn't. And one game I got burnt 4 life. My opponent was playing 4 of the extra cards that burn you an extra life. So I think I removed 2 or 3 of them with just this Beerus, using the tap 2 just to remove something with barrier, because I couldn't interact with it. So that is the Z deck. We'll go on to the side deck now. And so we've got 1 more Explosive Dance. I wasn't too sure if I wanted to run 4 Explosive Dances or not. I think just about every game I started in the 4th, because it was like one of those, like, it felt so good in this deck that it would have been like you wanted to see multiple copies of it, which you really like, there was no 2 ways. You wanted to see multiple copies on this because this really helped the deck a lot. So I just sided the 4th copy in. I probably should have just mained the 4th copy. I probably will going forward. 1 Jiren, and I think I want to go up to 2 just because of how, like, even if you just side the 1 copy in and you are scared of Turning the Tide, I didn't find it, and a second copy definitely would have helped, because Turning the Tide is 1 card I just definitely didn't want to lose to. So definitely would be going up to a second one of these now that I own a second copy. 1 Sin. This guy helped me win my mirror match with Cooler Mill. I think I might have sided him for 1 other game, but otherwise this was in my main, but I was finding myself not Z Awakening very often, and this guy just wasn't really doing much for me. So I moved him to the side just because I felt like he was very situational. And there was one situation that I needed him, and I used him very well. To Toa. Now, I had cut Toa. I was testing without Toa because of Explosive Dance. Explosive Dance helps you, obviously, floodgate your opponent without running into Koitsukai. And actually, a few times, I was very lucky that my opponent Koitsukai'd me, swung into me, and I just Explosive Dance. And that really did shut the turn down. But I think I sided this in against every opponent, because opponents that are really, really, like, onto Koitsukais, like, that was pretty much everyone I played. I felt like everyone was always going to run the Koitsukai. So I just ended up putting it back into the main, pretty much with the flex spots, I guess, for the sell. And it did come up multiple times. Like, my first game, I think I used one of them to bottom deck a Koitsukai. I think I played through one other Koitsukai that game. In my Yellow Sin Shenron, shout out to Ryan, I think I used two of these and dealt with two other Koitsukais, because obviously the play is like, obviously your opponent is going to mill a lot of cards, so they're going to hit Koitsukais. This just stops them from being able to set up their kill turn. If they've seen the Koitsukai, they're like, okay, I know I can Koitsukai you when I'm ready to kill you. But if you play Toa and shuffle it back into their deck, they either have to find it again or have to mill it again, which just sort of like throws out their kill turn, because a lot of the time you kind of want to kill under Koitsukai, so that way you know they're not playing big things into you. So she was like really, really good. Shout out to Benny, because I tested with him during the week leading up to it, and just chatting with him, he actually like conned me into putting these Toas back in because I had cut them. So shout out to him. I think it was a very good move to put them back in. 3 Deborah, I didn't see any green all day, which was very good, but I definitely didn't want to be discarding hands for no value if that was the case. 1 Unstoppable. This was actually 2. Shout out again to Zach. He did loan me a spare copy because I only owned 1 myself. And this was my straight up answer. Victory Strike really, really scared me. And like, obviously, because my deck interacts in the combo step a lot, so everything was going to cost 2 extra. Which in another turn was why Sin was going to be very helpful, because he could just neg 30k plus on the Victory Strike if I had to. But this was my play, and this was also my only real answer to the 4-drop Goku. So I think I actually think I played this twice against. I played 2 U7s. I won 1, lost 1. I actually played one of these under a Koitsukai to remove a 4-drop, and I just warped the cards because I actually had a decent hand at the time, but I didn't want to eat a burn life. So this guy, and he actually tried to counter it, but he didn't actually realize that it can't be negated in any area. So this was like straight up my answer to Victory Strike, because I could play Victory Strike. You tap 4, sure. You tap itself and one other thing, and you just straight up remove the Victory Strike. There's no way they can interact with it because its skills can't be negated in any area. So Cooler Counter is off the board if by whatever reason they were doing it turn 7. So otherwise, I did play this when they did try to drop the 4-drop on me to burn me life, because that really did hurt me. And like I said, I don't have any of the Vegetas. So being able to tap, like, obviously tapping 4 is really, really taxing, but it's what you got to do to stay alive. The only bad thing, like, with the 4-drop in late game is you could just, like, I paid 4, I bounced this back to their hand, and they still had 5 energy open because it was, like, turn 6, so they just paid 4 and hard cast it, which kind of, like, delayed the inevitable. So I really, I don't know if I would keep this in, knowing that I feel like I can deal with Victory Strike a lot easier now, but I just didn't want to make sure that I lost it. Like, my whole thing was I don't want to go and lose to Victory Strike. I would feel really bad about that. And I didn't lose to a Victory Strike, thankfully, but I definitely did miss definitely missed the Vegetas. Flight of the Grand Eagle. Now, this was actually meant to be 2 copies, and I'm really, really glad it wasn't, because like I said, Victory Strike scared me. And this does have synergy with, like, the Cell Max. If you've blocked with the Cell Max and then you neg the Cell Max, it blows itself up. So it can be really good, can be a free negate. But this was obviously my answer to Victory Strike as well. It was meant to be 2 copies because I wanted to make sure I seen it. However, I had no room left, and I was running a Turning the Tide. And I was looking at it, and I was like, am I really, really going to need Turning the Tide? So Shout out again to Benny, because I did actually ask him about a Fly the Grand Eagle, but I didn't remind him. So in the end, I just left Turning the Tide in, and this won me my mirror match against Cooler Mill. Hard to believe a red deck siding a Turning the Tide, let alone using it to win the game. So, like, we'd gotten to, I think it was 8 energy. My opponent was down at 4 life. Like I was saying about self-awakening myself, I played out the Freezer to get myself self-awakened, Z-awakened, played out my Sin, because I'd sided my Sin in. Where he is. Oh, he's gone. Here he is. Played out my Sin. My opponent's at 4 life. He wasn't really too sure what was happening, so he tried to swing into me, and I floodgated him with Oceanus. The turn stopped there. We drew, we charged our 8th energy, we dropped Turning the Tide. He didn't have a Jiren, he didn't have any response to it. He had no cards on board. He had 1 card on board, I lie. So obviously we both lose our hand, we swing the crit, we pop his battle card so he can't combo with it, we gain a 5k, we draw a card, and I think we were at 35k. He couldn't combo out, he didn't have enough Z energy to pop his to pop his Z extra card. So that put him 1 card in hand because he awakened to try and deal with the 30k from Sin, and he couldn't do it. So this little combo actually won me my mirror match against Cooler Mill. Shout out to Tim Hain for the Turning the Tide tech. Hopefully too many people don't catch on to this, because this is like this was my answer to the mirror match, and it almost didn't happen because I was going to run a second Flight of the Grand Eagle, and I didn't know what I wanted to cut. And I was going to cut Turning the Tide because I was like, I really don't know if I need Turning the Tide. But at the end of the day, Turning the Tide call was the good call. To protect the people, because I wanted more floodgates, because I was a bit worried about red. People were talking about red pan, so I thought this might be a safe bet. I didn't use protective people. I sided in 1 or 2 games, but I didn't use it at all. This would definitely be spots for the Vegeta counterplay, and I definitely think I'll be maining some of those Vegeta counterplays. And last up, Cooler Suffering Tyrannity. He only got sided in for certain occasions, and when I needed him, I used him. I think it was my Yellow Sin matchup. I was able just to rival the 30k body. Like, Sin has 30k bodies. He hadn't given him barrier. So we rival this, neg at 35. That's an attack stopped. And then, yeah, we were able to bounce him back to hand at the end of the next turn and get some untapped. So this guy did his job when he come in. I definitely think that it's worthy of keeping him in the side, to be honest. So there we have it, guys. That is the end of the deck profile. Hope you guys did enjoy it. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. We're on the road to 100 subs. Would be nice to get there by the time Fusion World drops. I will be trying to smash out the Fusion World content when it comes out. But for now, guys, that's been the Cooler Mill deck profile, and we'll catch you all soon.